Welcome, everybody. I will call to order the Committee of the Whole meeting for Wednesday, June 12th, 2024. Did everybody check in? Clerk, can we please have roll call?
So 1 presiding, 8 present, 2 absent.
Thank you. Let the record show that Commissioners Reardon and O'Neill are excused from tonight's meeting. Commissioner Soros, would you please lead us in the prayer and the pledge?
Thank you, fellow commissioners. Almighty God, we implore you, look upon us and guide us this night as we make decisions which will greatly affect our community of Butte-Silver. Direct our thoughts, words, and deeds so that we please you and best serve our fellow citizens. Amen.
Now we will move to public comment on any items on tonight's agenda. If you would like to speak about anything on tonight's agenda, please come to the microphone and give us your name and address for the record.
My name is James Ayers. I live at 13 Laird in Ramsey, Montana. Thank you, Chairman Shea and members of the council, for allowing me to speak on communication number 2024263, a proposal for school district number 3 to purchase park property located in Ramsey. I've been asked to speak to you by many of the residents who could not be here tonight. We agree the school should be allowed to purchase the park if it is necessary to provide a better and safer learning environment. What we don't agree with is the procedure that has been followed up to this point. We feel our concerns have not been addressed. Neither of the gentlemen you will be hearing from tonight have the authority to enter into this sales agreement. We question the validity of the voting process Mr. Hintz believes gives him the authority to enter into this agreement and the absence of a written park use agreement. At the May 23 annual Ramsey Association meeting, Mr. Kellogg approached the Ramsey Association after finding out they hold a lease on the property. He expressed his desire to purchase the park and presented a drawing of possible uses. The members of the association requested a more detailed explanation of the plans. He said at that time he was unsure of the exact plans, but that the park would remain available to Ramsey residents. At the July 5th, 2023 association meeting, Mr. Kellogg stated that there had been no movement on the park, that it was waiting on an agreement between the school and the association. He had previously been given a draft agreement. At the October 9th, 23 Parks and Recreation meeting, Ramsey residents were informed they would have no control over the park once it was sold. Mr. Kellogg stated depending on the property's market value, the school may choose not to proceed. At the November 13th Parks and Recreation meeting, Ramsey residents explained the park's importance and the need for a written use agreement. Mr. Hintz and Mr. Kellogg were present at this meeting. The Parks Board asked the school and the association to come to an agreement. With no communication from Mr. Kellogg, we thought the school might not be able to afford the land. At the December 11th meeting of Parks and Recreation Board voted to approve the sale of the park. No concerned Ramsey residents were present. No use agreement had been signed. June 5th of this year, the sale of the park was on the Council of Commissioners' agenda for approval. After much discussion, the decision was postponed until tonight. On June 6th, I left a phone message for Mr. Kellogg and emailed an updated draft of the proposed agreement. On Monday, June 10th, Mr. Kellogg returned my call. In the conversation, he stated that the school board would not be able to meet until after this meeting. I asked why the school board had not already decided on the agreement since the first draft was given to him nearly a year ago. He said they would not consider the agreement until after they owned the property. Since approval of the agreement was a requirement before the Ramsey Association would give up the lease on the park, and since the school board has not approved the agreement, neither Mr. Hintz nor Mr. Kellogg have the authority to enter into this agreement. I ask that you take no action on this matter until the school board and the Ramsey Association have a written agreement. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ayers. Are there any other public comments tonight on items on the agenda? Thank you. Please touch the button on the bottom. There you go.
Hello.
Hi, please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Thor Nordwick, and my address is 1123 Gold Street property.
Okay, go ahead.
I had 3 lawnmowers. I have 3 sheep that were lawnmowers, mowing the yard. No one didn't have any problems until someone called the cops and
Okay, Mr. Nordwick, can I
Yep.
interrupt you for just 1 second? Is this related to one of the 3 items on our agenda tonight? Okay, so I'm going to ask you to hold your comments till the end of the meeting when we do off-agenda comments, and hopefully we won't be here too long. I'll call you up when it's your turn, okay? Thank you. And go ahead and turn the mic on, please.
Oh, thank you.
There you go.
So yeah, my name's Kyle Hintz, 26 Laird Street, Ramsey, Montana, president of Ramsey Association. I just wanted to make sure that we would have a chance to speak later. Okay, that's fine?
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. You will, thank you. Okay, is there any other public comment on any items on tonight's agenda? Okay. Seeing none, I'll move to the report of the chair. I don't have much to report other than to let the public know and let everybody know that's here at this meeting that we will be moving next week to fill the vacancy in District 1 that was vacated by Sean Frederickson. The position closes on Thursday, so they will take applicants through Thursday. And at the special meeting next week, we will interview candidates, and at that same meeting, the commissioners will vote to appoint someone to fill that seat. So just wanted to let everybody know what that process looks like. And if anybody in the public has any questions, they can reach out to Barb in the council office, and she can direct you to the right place. We'll move to section 1, communications. Item number 1, communication number 2024-269. Julia Crane, BSB Planning Director, requesting Council of Commissioners authorization to schedule a public hearing for June 5 and recommend that Council approve the Comprehensive Plan Amendment number 24-000002. Upon approval, a resolution has been prepared and is also on the June 5th, 2024 agenda. We had that public hearing last week, so Commissioner Thatcher.
Thank you, Chairwoman Shea. At this time, I would like to place communication number 2024-269 on file.
There's a motion and a second to place communication number 2024-269 on file. Is there anything on the question? Will everybody please vote? Would anybody like to change their vote? Clerk, please record the vote.
9 yea, 0 nay.
9 yea, 0 nay, motion passes. 0 nay, motion passes. Item number 2, communication number 2024-263. Dave Aguirre, Land Records Coordinator, requesting Council of Commissioners to approve Council Communication 2024-195, a request from School District Number 3 to purchase Butte-Silver owned property. Mr. Aguirre, do you have anything to add since this is your communication?
Thanks, Madam Chair, members of the council. I don't know that I have a lot to add. I would just maybe share a little bit that the process that these guys went through that maybe I didn't hit on well enough, right? So they actually went through the process that is outlined by ordinance in section 2.36 to get approval from the Parks and Rec Board in order to sell the property, which then kicks it into the council's realm to sell. So I just thought I would maybe add that because I didn't think I cleared that. You know, their process is what declares the land as surplus park property, which then would give the council the ability to make the decision on whether to sell it or not.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Commissioner Minkins.
Chairwoman Shea, so Director Aguirre, did they do anything out of the ordinary to proceed forward with this?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Mankins, I'm not sure out of the ordinary. What I can say is that they
Followed all the
the
steps?
The ordinance, yeah.
Okay.
Commissioner Callahan.
Thank you, Chair Lady Shea. Mr. Gory, I was just curious, last week when this came before the council, the language in the communication said undeveloped and unmaintained property. Could you tell me where that language came from, please?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Callahan, what I can say on that is, what I meant by that is that that park was not developed by Butte-Silver Bow. It was no intention to indicate that it wasn't planted grass or watered grass or anything like that. The intent was that this land was dedicated to the public through the subdivision process, not developed by Butte-Silver Bow. They leased it to the Ramsey Association. My understanding, Ramsey Association developed it as a park, and I think as we heard last week, they mow it and things like that.
Thank you, Mr. Geary. Commissioner Callahan, follow up.
My next question, I guess, would be, so if it went before the Land Sales Board, would that same language have been used, that these people were unaware that it is a very well-developed park and a very well-maintained park?
Mr. Geary.
Madam, my own voice is freaking me out. Madam Chair, Commissioner Callahan, no, I think I would stand behind those words, is that is not a Butte-Silver Bow developed park. Meaning that Butte-Silver Bow did not develop that park similar to like Butte-Silver Bow developed Stodden Park or Butte-Silver Bow developed Clark's Park, right? The land was dedicated to them, but they did not develop it, is my understanding. We, Butte-Silver Bow.
Thank you. Commissioner Callahan.
But that certainly wasn't the language, so it was very misleading.
Mr. Geary.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Callahan, all I can say to that is the intention of that language was not to mislead anybody. If you found it misleading, I would call it an honest mistake on my part, and I'll apologize to that.
Yeah, I'm not calling
But
anybody out. My question would be, would there possibly be why they approved the sale of the property? Because they thought it was undeveloped land and unmaintained land with that language?
Go ahead, Mr. Geary.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Callahan, no, that language is developed after the Land Sales Committee meeting.
One more question, please.
Mr. Callahan.
And another question would be, could you explain how would a park that's developed and maintained for decades, as well as it has been, I mean, I was out there yesterday and there's 44 major size pine trees, ponderosa pines. I mean, this park is an incredible park. How would something like that get put on the surplus land for the parks when it's already got a lease from the people of Ramsey, that they have a lease on that property? How would that get stuck on surplus lands? Could you explain that to me, please?
Mr. Aguirre.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Callahan, that is really outside my realm as the land records coordinator. Maybe you would direct that to the Parks and Rec director, maybe, or somebody from the Parks and Rec board. I'm familiar with the ordinance on what they need to do in order to sell it, but I'm not familiar with their process or their decision making.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Callahan.
Mr. Frederickson's here.
Yeah.
Maybe he could answer that question,
Yeah,
please.
I was just going to call Parks and Rec Director Sean Frederickson up to answer some of those questions.
Hello, members of council. Sean Frederickson, Parks and Recreation Director. Commissioner Callahan, can you repeat the question, please?
I was just curious on how a park that has been developed decades ago, it's been maintained, very well maintained, would end up on surplus lands for sale, especially when the people of Ramsey have a 100-year lease on the property.
Yeah.
Director Frederickson.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Callahan. So when we went through the Parks Master Plan, The consultant that did the master plan looked at all excess parks property. And some of those properties were a dirt lot. Some of them were like Hagel Park that we just sold, or we're in the process of selling last week, which is a wetland. And some of them have grass, like the one that was in my former district, District 1, that doesn't have a name. That one gets maintained and mowed, and if you drive past it on Blacktail Lane, that one is grass and, maintained. So they looked at all the properties that they felt that could be sold. So it was designated surplus land in the Parks Master Plan.
Commissioner Callahan.
Even though this one had a 100-year lease and was being maintained and developed, they still would do something like that?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Callahan, yes, I think they would look at all the properties that could be sold and developed. It's maintained, it's mowed by the association, it has trees that they planted. Butte-Silver still maintains the spraying the weeds out there. So yeah, it is taken care of. I don't think anyone's arguing that.
Thank you, Mr. Frederickson. I think Chief Executive Gallagher has something to add.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to add a little history to this, this parcel probably would not be put on as a surplus property if there wasn't a request from the Ramsey School Board requesting to purchase that property. When this came forward to us when I was the Parks Director, we recognized that there was a lease on it. We worked with the Ramsey Association, which that was the request, to work with the Ramsey Association to see if this was agreeable and that would be something that they would do. So that was the process that went on. Because originally when the first request came, we had to research, and it was brought to our attention there was a lease on the property. So then we went through the process of those parties need to come together. And as the history of Mr. Ayers gave, there was multiple meetings and talk through that, and the agreement would have to come from the Ramsey Association that would say they would give up that lease, allowing Ramsey School Board to purchase the property out there, and then they could come up with an agreement. And to the point that we're talking about, really it's hard for anybody to enter into an agreement with each other until the Ramsey School Board owns that property. And so there's got to be, in some respects, some good faith in this as well. And so that's kind of where I've seen this go, is that there's got to be some good faith of what's going to happen with that going forward. But really, Ramsey School Board has no authority to enter into an agreement until the time that they have, till they actually have the property. So that's the history from when I was there and kind of where the agreement was there. This property wouldn't be put on surplus normally with a lease on it, but it was because of the request, because of the school board needing more property for the school buildings and stuff.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. Mr. Hintz, would you like to come speak? And Mr. Kellogg, I think, is here. Yeah, just go ahead and state your name and let us know. I understand you're representing the Ramsey Association. Is that correct?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Okay. All right.
That's correct.
Go
my name
ahead
is-
and let us know what's going on out there.
My name is Kyle Hintz, 26 Laird Ramsey. I am the unlucky person to be the chairman of the association at this point. I ended up in that position by default. I've always been a sucker for that type of stuff. I do believe in public service, and I saw that it was a good gap that needed to be filled. As Hintz luck would have it, as my son would say, I've ended up here in front of everyone. I've never done anything like this before. So I guess for the sake of time, Would you guys like me to lay out the history of how this happened? Would you like to shotgun me questions? How would you like to approach this, Madam Chair?
Thank you, Mr. Hintz. First, I would like you to explain the process by which the association voted to go ahead and allow Butte-Silver Bow to terminate the lease to allow the sale of the property.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I think I'm partially prepared for this, best I can be. I don't know if I present things to you guys. I don't know how this process works, but first off, I have the revised bylaws of the Ramsey Association, September 13th, 2020 or 2017. I've combed through them 3 or 4 times. There's no rule book on this. There's no rule book here. I'm trying to act as a good friend, neighbor, and a friend of the school. And I hope I don't go home and have my tire slashed or have any of my stuff egged or windows broken. So if you'd like, I have that as well. You can refer to that. First correspondence I have on document from Mr. Kellogg is, oh geez, I just saw March. So March 7th, oh yes, there it is. February 24th, 2022. I have an email that I'm more than willing to address, make public, whatever. It doesn't matter to me. I was approached at that time. Well, actually, that wasn't the initial approach. That February 24th, 2022 was an email I had sent to our Ramsey board of directors, whatever you want to call them. There's 7 positions. Me taking 1 leaves 6. There's 5 others on the board right now, so we have a vacant seat. So would you like me to read that said letter? It's not super long. It's half a page. Does that matter to you?
You can summarize. Summarize. I'm more interested in how the association arrived at the decision to go ahead and terminate the lease with Butte-Silver Bow, which would allow the school district to make the purchase.
Yes, Madam Chair. I'll try my best. So yeah, anyway, long story short then, we were approached by Mr. Kellogg at one of our meetings. He talked about the sale of, or us relinquishing the lease through, I have record of 2 anyway, but the one that is the most important, and I want to say we have 5, and I can get you those minutes as well of those meetings. The one that matters, and we actually have a copy. Mr. Kellogg and I teamed up, through long process of talking, asking questions, having meetings, having and holding meetings. Mr. Kellogg being present, myself being present. We come to this ballot that Mr. Kellogg has. We went and as Jim Ayers indicated last time, we went and hung on doors, knocked on doors, things of that nature. And at any rate, every house in Ramsey had one of these on them to vote on. I can read that if you care. The total that came back, total votes was 21. We had 15 yeses, 6 noes. And I believe there was 44 houses, 42, 49. However many houses are in Ramsey that would be able to vote that are a part of the association. So we had 21 show up. 15 yes, 6 no. The letter, and I think that this is where the confusion probably, I don't know if this is where, I don't think this is quite where it starts. Anyway, spring of 2022, Ramsey School approached Ramsey Association. I feel this one's, can I read this entire one? Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. In the spring of 2022, Ramsey School approached the Ramsey Association with the hopes of getting support towards acquiring the land north of the middle school buildings. This land is currently owned by Butte-Silver Bow. The idea is to create a Ramsey School City Park. The acquisition of the land would allow for improvements to the school facility, improved parking, and possible creation of a larger recreation area for students and residents. Should the school be fortunate enough to acquire the land, the Ramsey School Board has voted to take responsibility for the park maintenance and taxes. We are asking you to vote in favor of approaching the Silver Bow County Commissioners regarding the transfer of ownership of the land to the school. Please complete the enclosed ballot and return to the Ramsey Association by December 5th. If you need additional information or have questions prior to casting your vote, please attend the next Ramsey Association meeting November 28th at 7 p.m. in the school cafeteria. All questions, concerns, and comments are welcome. Happy Thanksgiving. Chris Kellogg, Ramsey School Principal. Him and I got together, put that together, and there was also, so we met up just the other day. This was an unopened envelope that was an exact, it was a leftover, right? So this would have been put on someone's door had it not been surplus. It says, yes, I am in favor of having Ramsey School approach Silver Bow County Commissioners in regarding to requesting a land ownership transfer. No, I am not in favor of having Ramsey School approach Silver Bow County Commissioners in regard to requesting a land ownership transfer. And then there was a map of the park. Mr. Kellogg has a big one that he brought to our association meeting. It's a draft drawn by, I think it was a friend of yours, is that correct? Somebody that you knew that was a part-time draft or something of that nature. The expectation would not be to them to spend thousands of dollars to have a bunch of drafts made up without owning the land. It seems fairly abundant at that point. Anyway, so that's what was hung on doors. That's the vote tally once again, 21 total votes, 15 yes, 6 no. I know that there was talk of having, I don't know, I don't quite know how am I doing, Madam Chair?
You're doing great. So the vote tally,
Yes.
that went to the association, correct?
Yes.
And did the association take into account the votes? And then how did the association vote? On
Yes,
that
Madam
issue?
Chair. We did take into account the votes. Once again, having no rule book here, the last meeting that we had, and I'm probably going to get shunned for this, but it was, we were okay with everything short of, oh, I'm sorry, did you have a question?
No, you keep
Chairman?
going.
Oh, I'm fine, Madam Chair, if you want to address.
So I want to ask, I just have a couple questions for the county attorney. I was mostly trying to give Mr. Hintz an opportunity to talk through their process, and it sounds like it was, I'm not an expert on your bylaws. I'm not an expert on how the association works or anything, but it sounds like it was done, with a fairly democratic process. Once the property is designated as surplus property, what does that change? Does that override any other agreements that were in place between the association and the county and the city county? Does that make sense?
So you're asking me, Madam Chair, if once the land is designated to be surplus park, and then somebody wants to enter into a contract to have that transferred to them, does that essentially override the lease? Is that what you're asking me? I don't think it would override the lease, and that's why I think it's important to understand that the people that were party to the lease agreed to release themselves from the lease in order for the transfer to happen. Because that was my question in my head last week, was how are we taking the lease away from the association for the land transfer? So this is actually filling in those holes. It it's my understanding today is that the association is agreeing to release themselves from the lease in order for the transfer to happen. So I don't think we have one contract trumping the other contract. We just have a negotiation that happened, and the parties to the lease have agreed to terminate the lease with Butte-Silver Bow in order for the second contract to happen. If they didn't agree to terminate the lease, I think the lease would stand until such time as another negotiation happened and then the parties to the lease made different agreements.
Thank you, County Attorney 5E. So am I to understand that the lease is no longer in place due to your vote?
Madam Chair, yes, with stipulations,
Okay.
with the concerns, okay? And I think that's why we're here, is those concerns. I found out earlier that it is possible to maybe have as a part of a deed a convert a covenant to not sell for profit. That was one of the major concerns of the town of Ramsey. The other is on the deed, and I don't know how any of this works, so if I'm out to lunch, I'm sorry. And then the other would be to offer the Ramsey Association the first right of refusal if sold. I think these are parts of what Mr. Ayers has put together, and once again, not knowing anything about the process and how an agreement works between three parties, being Silver Bow, Ramsey, and the school. I am also in the camp of I don't know quite how to approach it. What Mr. Ayers put together, and some of his constituents, a few other people in Ramsey there, the elders as they were called the other day, that it was, I did present this to Mr. Kellogg, and we did have extensive conversations about it, and it was met by both of us with it's not fitting for what happened. I do, on the other hand, I tried to print out and have on hand in the early stages of this, before the train got rolling on the we should have more control than the school because it was our park. And if I could read that agreement, I tried to present this, and at the meetings that I had no one was there. I've had it for a while, and I actually lost it and found it on my phone. So this is awesome. You can have it if you like it. May I, Madam Chair? It's fairly short.
Yes, go ahead. And then I'm going to ask the commissioners to ask you some questions if
Thank
they
you.
have some questions.
So Ramsey School and Ramsey Association agreement to joint land development. This document is being created and signed to assure partnership between the Ramsey School and the Ramsey Association. These two parties, Ramsey Association and Ramsey School, agree to work together in the future development of the park located north of the school's modular learning facility. I'm from Anaconda. I'm sorry, I can't read very well. The intent of Ramsey School acquiring this land is not to sell for profit or develop with housing, but to upgrade the school's modular buildings, create some agreed upon and much needed parking, ensure the school and town of Ramsey have a well-maintained park that both parties can enjoy and benefit from for many years to come. If the school is to acquire the land and acquire this land, any proposed changes, any proposed changes will be brought to the Ramsey Association for the consideration and discussion. Any future administrations of either party will remain bound by this agreement. Both of us had signed that to basically appease the town of Ramsey, put their minds at ease. It was in the mix to present that to the school board, and that was at the point Mr. Ayers brought his proposed agreement, which was a draft. And It was so far out, in my opinion, I couldn't in good faith bring that to the school board to, as I believe at the last meeting, a few of our commissioners brought up that how can an agreement that in-depth exist from a party who doesn't own the land to us. So once again, please fire away, let me have it. I love having my windows broken and tires slashed. I am from Anaconda, so thank you.
Well, thank you for being here. I wanted to give you an opportunity to speak as much as you wanted to speak.
Thank you, Madam
because
Chair.
last week, we didn't have all the parties here due to various reasons. And I agree with you that that agreement is, like the chief executive said, more of a good faith agreement
Yes.
that has no standing until the land is actually transferred. Commissioner Sorich.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You know, I guess I'm going to say, I thank you for everybody for being here. I don't believe this is a Butte-Silver Bowl Commissioner's duties. I think our duties as a legislative board is to make sure the ordinances are followed, the rules were followed, the laws were followed, and they have been. We listened to Mr. Gueri, and you know, the land board has gone through the process. I think this is a situation between the neighbors and the Ramsey Association. I don't think that's Butte-Silver Bowl should be getting in the middle of that. You know, I still think that, you know, if there's still situations that need to be worked out, I think the two of them should be working it out with the land board before it's brought. I just don't think it's something that isn't our duties to do.
Thank you, Commissioner Sorich. I would agree. It's not our job to referee between the school district and the association. The question before us is whether or not we will authorize a land transfer, which absolutely is our role. Anything like this, once it goes through all the other processes, has to come to the council for final approval. I do want to give a member of the Parks and Rec Board the opportunity to speak. And then if Mr. Kellogg has anything to add, I'll get to you too. We'll ask Ms. Tuddy to speak on behalf of the Parks and Rec Board, and she can explain the public processes that this question has gone through.
I got a text message asking if they were going to build on the whole thing. This is the tentative drawing. The school's over here, or the school's over here. Oh, over there. So they want to put in parking here and here. This is the alley, the Ramsey Alley. You know what I'm talking about? And this would be left as a gazebo. They'd put a volleyball and tennis court. So there'd be lots of area for people to recreate. Right now, it's just green space. So JP was the director of Parks and Rec when this came to us the first time. That's more than 4 years ago. Over the course of that 4 years, we counted at least eight different times. Sean thinks there might have been 10, but 8 different times that it was on the agenda. On at least 3 of those occasions, August, September, and October, we had a number of people from Ramsey, from the Ramsey Association, not associating themselves with the Ramsey Association, just there. We had Mr. Kellogg. Then we, at the November meeting, at the November meeting, our November board meeting, prior to these votes being sent out, we asked Mr. Kellogg if he had an agreement with the association that they were going to be willing to give up the lease so that the sale wouldn't be for naught. And he said, well, I kind of do. And it was like, you got to go back and get the agreement. Once you have an agreement from them, I don't recall us asking for it in writing. We just wanted to know that the Ramsey Association was on the same page as the Ramsey School Board and the Ramsey School District. When he came back with that in December, we voted in favor of the land sale. And Chuck Merrifield, who's the chair of the Parks and Rec Committee, or Parks and Rec Board, sorry, wrote a letter recommending the sale. It then went to Mr. Aguirre in land sales. So we had at least, within the last year, we had, I would say, 4 separate public meetings, Parks and Rec Board meetings where it was on the agenda, people were welcome to attend and did. the very interesting thing to me was there were a lot of people who were there, and their big concern was, we don't want it to be sold and people to use it to develop housing. We don't want it to be used for the school district to make money after we give up that lease. And that's why Mr. Hintz mentioned covenants. We talked about, well, you know, maybe what you can do is, you know, agree to a covenant or something. But if you guys agree to surrender the lease, we can agree to sell the property. And it made sense to us because the Ramsey School District is growing. And it would seem to me that you would want to support your school district. So it did have a number of public meetings in the Parks and Rec Board.
Thank you, Ms.
You're
Kelly.
welcome.
I appreciate
Any
it.
questions for me?
Do you guys have any questions? Commissioner Fisher?
Thank you, Chairman Shea. I really don't have no questions, but I guess when the vote's 15-6, you got 21 people. That's got to be within 10 or 15 of the whole people that live out there.
It's
When the vote's-
50% of the people.
Yeah, and then anytime we do an SID, which is not similar to this, but it's the Democratic way to do things,
Yep.
they've got close to 50% of the people saying this is a good move. So, I mean, I don't want to get into the logistics of the lease, but if they're willing to give up the lease, and this thing should move forward. I mean, you know, we can kick this thing around forever if you want. But I mean, if they're willing to give up the lease and they have the authority to do so, I mean, 15-6. I mean, it's not like it's 10-12 or something. I mean, I think that should hold some water
Yeah, it's a
somewhere.
5-2 vote.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Fisher. Commissioner Anderson?
Thank you very much, Chairwoman Shea. I agree, and it looks like a huge mess, and I agree the preponderance of the people voting for it. One of the things that I keep going back to is that there's a lot of different people, and they're always switching, and this has been going on for 4 or 5 years at least. And one of those things is that the parties change. We're on our fourth different park and recs director
Third.
in this time. Third. Well, I was thinking Mr. Gallagher, his replacement, interim director, Hurd. And so we have 4 directors who have been working on this, and all due respect to my former colleague, Mr. Frederickson, you have your hands full on this. I wonder how many people, when they voted for this, had in mind that there were going to be certain covenants in place that they'd still use it. I know that the community has used this park for a long time. When I talked to Mr. Ayers and other people they're more than happy to give this up, but they want some kind of reassurance from the school. And I wonder if that's there. There's been other times where I have seen in different organizations that I've worked with closely where different people have fought with each other for control over different aspects of programs and where money should go, how the programs and proceeds and who should take over and where production should be held. And I really want to support the school district, and I really like the idea of them further developing the park. The tennis court seems like a wonderful idea. I do not believe there's any tennis courts in Ramsey right now, so even that alone is a benefit. But what's going to happen if the school district decides down the road that this isn't for the public good, it's for the school, and we're going to block the people off? I think that's the reassurance that Mr. Ayers and the other groups of citizens over there are looking for. And personally, if it's a park that is favoring the community right now, I cannot support this until that agreement is signed. And there's numerous times where agreements are signed beforehand. If this happens, then yes, we'll agree to that, if the school district would put pen to paper on that. But being as they've had years to work on this and have failed to do so, it kind of makes me wonder about their motives, and I'd be more concerned about that than I would otherwise. So for those reasons, at this time, I cannot support this communication.
Thank you, Commissioner Anderson. I would add that I went by the Whittier School on my way here tonight because it's in my district, and the playground was full of kids. So I don't anticipate that the schools would prevent the public from using the property. It is also public property, just like it is as Butte-Silver property. It was remain public property. It's just in the hands of the school district. I'll get back to you. I want Commissioner Thatcher to have an opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Chairwoman Shea. Kind of alluding to Chairwoman Shea's point, Mr. Kellogg, can you just really quick? I was the commissioner last week that brought it up that it didn't make much sense to me to have an agreement until you guys on the property, if that was the case.
Correct.
If my memory serves me correct, and maybe it doesn't, but isn't the park that's already out there that's used by the entire community too with no issues, as is the playground?
Oh, yeah. All is open to the public, and there is no intention to close that park down to the public if the school board, or if the school was to acquire it. That's, I mean, if it was stated in the vote that I sent out with Mr. Hintz that is a school community park. I've always presented it that way. The whole reason behind this was Ramsey School is growing, and the middle school is in terrible condition. And so in order to upgrade that, we are currently, the school building footprint is the property that we own. And so there's no room for adjustments. And if we were to build on, or, you know, I don't think anybody disagrees that there's no parking at the Ramsey School. So, you know, even parking, there's no place for parking. The solution would be to use a small portion of that possibly acquired land to, you know, fulfill those needs, add a, you know, possibly add a school building, add some parking to decongest that whole area, safety for children. But never has it been presented or the intent of the school to close that down for public use, ever. And the only reason that the school board did not sign an agreement was, just as Ms. Thatcher said, we didn't want to make an agreement on something that we didn't own. So.
Thank you, Mr. Kellogg. Follow-up, Commissioner Thatcher.
I don't have a follow-up. I think that, I mean, in my opinion, that says, I mean, there's the act of good faith, I guess, that we're looking for. I mean, it's already happened over the course of history. That other park has been used by members of the public. These guys went through the proper process. As Commissioner Fisher alluded to, the vote indicated that this was something that was favorable by most of the community. So at this time, I'd like to make a motion to concur and place on file communication number 2024-263.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second to concur with communication number 2024-263 and place it on file. On the question, Mr. Callahan.
First of all, I want to thank you guys for coming here tonight and
Thanks for having us.
being in front of us and telling us and for your service and everything. What I've got, I'm the commissioner of that area.
Yep.
And the phone calls I've got, there isn't one person that said they want to tell you no. All they're asking through this whole thing was they want some kind of written agreement.
And that,
And,
oh, sorry.
and, you know, it sounds all good and dandy that we can't get the land. If you went to the bank and said, we have to have this money so we can get this land, and then I'll come back to you and we'll do the details, what would they do? They'd throw your ass out the bank, you know? So to say that is stretching pretty far. And then one of the other questions is, and Mr. Fisher and Ms. Thatcher both commented on, you went the proper procedures. Nobody knows the proper procedures. But what I can say, the procedure you went hanging things on people's doors, the people that are a part of the association are the property owners. There's numerous houses out there that are renters. So you probably got some people that were renters that answered that. And in a real vote, those people wouldn't be part of the vote because they're not the property owner. So there are some things that could probably be adjusted. So what the request of these folks that are just asking you to come to the table, sit down with them and give them a plan that you can come back to us and we can all approve it and move forward. That's all I think that these people have asked. There has not been one person that told me they're not for what you're doing, but they just want some kind of a plan, so they know that they're giving their park up for the right reasons. They can trust you, but it can go south. In this day and age, a lot of things go south. So I would do a substitute motion and ask you folks, like I tried to do last week, to take some time to sit down together, figure out what works for you guys, what works for those guys, come back to us, have it approve it, and we all move forward.
Second.
Thank you. Commissioner Callahan, would you please restate your motion?
A substitute motion to give, how much time would you guys like to sit down with the group of people that are concerned? How much time would you need?
About 10 years. I mean, seriously, it would be, Madam Chair, ma'am?
I think hold off for just a minute. I think I just want Commissioner Callahan, as a representative of that district, to make a good faith estimate on a timeline.
Okay.
Just to restate your motion so we all know what we're voting on.
My motion is to give you 30 days to sit down with the group of people that have some concerns, and then come back to us so we can approve this thing and move forward.
Second.
Okay. So there's a substitute motion on the floor to, I assume, hold this in abeyance for 30 days. Motion and a second. On the question, Commissioner Fisher.
Thank you, Chairman Shea. You know, I'm not acting like a legal scholar here because we've got a real good one in Kelly Fivey there. But you know, Mr. Hance is acting in good faith for the people of the community. He is their spokesman. Mr. Ayers, he's a private citizen. He's talking on his own. I don't see anybody come up here with Mr. Ayers, and I respect everything he does for their community. But Mr. Hance is acting as a representative of a group. He's acting in the shoes of 21 people and had a 15-6 vote. I don't know why we need another 30 days to do this. Mr. Ayers is acting as a private citizen, and we've been through this now for 2 or 3 weeks. In my opinion, I'm going to support Commissioner Thatcher's movement to approve this because I think that Mr. Hance has made a decision that got 15 and 21 votes. I don't live out there. If I did, it'd be up different, and I agree with Mr. Callahan to represent the district. But we can't keep dragging these things out 30 days here. I mean, our construction season's slow, the school's growing, the kids got things to do. So, I mean, I just think that in this case, Mr. Hance appears to have the authority to act as he is, and I think that we're making the best move forward. Thank you.
Mr. Kellogg, or Mr. Hance, can I see that document that you said was a surplus document?
Oh, yeah.
If you just pass it to Claire. And this was the document that was
Yes.
circulated? And this is the document that talks about what the school envisions, the land?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. And that's what I wanted to clarify that because this is the good faith document.
Yes.
This is what people voted on, in my opinion. And the public record is a very compelling public document as well. So being here like this and everybody getting on the record with stating what their intentions are, I think also demonstrates good faith. That's my own personal opinion. The commissioners have the right to vote however they want to. So on the question, we'll go to Mr. Anderson and then we'll hopefully move to a vote.
Thank you very much. I will be supporting Commissioner Callahan's motion, and I do have one question for Mr. Henso. You asked how long it would take to come to an agreement with the citizenry of your community, most of which you represent, and you said 10 years. Why the 10-year timeline? Is there some kind of animosity between the two groups and the school district that we're unaware of? Because that seemed rather telling to me, but I was just curious on that.
Madam Chair, Commissioner, it's funny, and I was hoping to have a chance to speak on that. If anybody's aware of Dave Ramsey, it would be considered powdered butt syndrome, I think. They're referred to as the elders. And I am, I don't want to call anybody out on age-wise, but I am much younger than most of these people that are once again, I think, Commissioner Callahan, thank you. You stated that properly and correctly, that no one's not in favor of it. They want this to go through the right way. All the research I've done leads to, a good faith agreement followed by an agreement. So there is no animosity. It's, Mr. Ayers has been a part of the community much longer than I have, and I feel the community is probably feels a little bit more compelled due to recent events that took place out by Ramsey. And his expertise there. I do feel that's probably why they approached him and not me, but yes, one of the problems is I'm not him and he is not me. So that would be the divide, not animosity. I would like to state that I do love my neighbors, especially across the street directly. I will not name her, but she has been great. She's great to our kids. Many other older in Ramsey, sorry, I'm almost tearing up. I love these people. It is in my best heart interest that I'm trying my best for these people. And with the lack of communication between myself and Mr. Ayers and, and the rest of the community, it's not animosity. I feel that it would be powdered butt syndrome, and that's about the best I can describe it.
Thank you, Mr. Hintz.
Go ahead. Then I have one.
Who wants it? Commissioner Callahan.
I just want to comment. I just really feel it's too bad that 30 days isn't enough to sit down and figure this out amongst your community. Since I've been on this commission, there ain't a neighborhood in this town that's like the community of Ramsey. The people in that town has got their own unique little community. And to turn around and divide your community the way it is just a shame. If you can't agree to 30 days, I think that's really a sad thing. But I will say to all the commissioners voting here today, I honestly believe the way the vote was done, hanging it on doors, and you have no signatures, the proof of signatures, property owners weren't involved, some of them were renters. I believe somebody could challenge that. If they challenge that, 30 days is going to be a whole lot longer. It could be years.
Thank you, Mr. Callahan. Pardon me? We have a motion and a second on the floor. Commissioner Anderson.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. The only other question I had was for Mr. Ayers. Everybody else had a couple opportunities to talk, and I just wanted to ask him if he had anything else he wanted to bring forth and comment, please. The main question I had for you is kind of what your concerns are with how this is moving forward.
Well, my biggest concern is that, and I do have nothing but respect for these two gentlemen, and I think we could work out an agreement. What I don't understand, since we gave them agreement, I was asked by the treasurer of the Ramsey Association to come up with a draft that was a little bit more restrictive than something that only gives us consideration and discussion about whatever the school wants to do with the park. The treasurer of the Ramsey Association asked me to come up with a draft. I didn't do it on my own as just a citizen. So my concern is I did that right away and gave it to him, and I never heard anything back. It's just a draft. It was a working document. If it was, something they couldn't live with, they certainly could have, communicated with me, even through the treasurer who lives across the alley from me, and said, this is way beyond what we want to agree to. We could have tried to work something out. I've called Mr. Kellogg. Earlier last week, I sent him a copy of a revised draft, which actually loosened up some of the agreements, because I thought, well, maybe it is a little bit too restrictive. I never heard anything back from these people at all. We had meeting with Parks and Recreation. They said, get an agreement, come back to us. that didn't happen. This vote that you're talking about, a lot of these people that live in Ramsey are snowbirds. How are they supposed to weigh in on something that's hanging on their doorstop, you know, that they aren't even home? My biggest concern is, what have they got planned that they won't bother to sit down and have some kind of agreement with us? Now, you said they're not going to do anything to restrict access. I ask you, what school property doesn't have a 6-foot chain link fence around it? Every single one of them. Now, city parks don't, but the schools all do. So how long before the school's insurance company, as an example, decides maybe it's not safe to have the people of Ramsey also using the park, in which case Mr. Kellogg would have no choice but to lock us out. These are the kind of things that I'm concerned about. We can't know going forward what changes may develop that, you know, Ramsey will want to have this. At that last meeting, you guys talked about how important parks are to cities, communities. Ramsey has a nice park. We want to work out an agreement with the school, a workable agreement that we can both live with. What we're really asking you for, this, in my opinion, should never have come to the Council of Commissioners. This should have been taken care of at the Parks and Recreation level. But it wasn't, because we didn't get any response from Mr. Kellogg to our offers to try and negotiate some kind of agreement. My concern is, why wouldn't you sit down with us? Why wouldn't you communicate with us?
Commissioner
Thank you,
Fortune.
Mr. Ayers.
Commissioner Fortune.
Thanks, Commissioner Shea. I think I'd like to call for the vote. The two people affected by this are the Ramsey Association and the school district, and we've heard from both of them, and representatives from both of them have said that they're in agreement with this sale. So, I mean, I feel for the city, the citizens of Ramsey, but both parties involved have both spoke in favor of it, and I think they're both here in their capacity to do so. So, let's call for the vote.
There's a motion to call for the vote. Is there a second? Okay, we'll vote on calling for the vote. All those in favor? Aye. Okay.
No.
Opposed? Okay, ayes have it. We'll vote on the first, the substitute motion.
Yeah, just call him for the
Do you want to do a roll call vote? Ayes?
Is this a substitute motion?
No, this is just a call for the vote. Okay, we'll vote. We'll vote on the substitute motion, which Mr. Callahan made, Mr. Anderson seconded, to hold this communication for 30 days while the parties, I guess, do what the parties will do in the next 30 days. So, yeah, will commissioners please vote? Everybody vote. Would anybody like to change their vote? Clerk, please record the vote.
3 yay, 6 nay.
3 yea, 6 nay, motion fails. Now we'll go to the next vote, which was Commissioner Thatcher, and seconded by, I'm not sure who I could isolate, there was a couple of seconds, to concur with communication number 2024-263 and place on file. Commissioners, will you please vote?
He's going to be closed off so fast, it's going to make their head spin.
Commissioner Anderson, your vote didn't register.
Oh.
Thank you. Okay. Would anyone like to change their vote? Clerk, please record the vote.
7 yay, 2 nay.
7 yea, 2 nay, motion carries. Moving on to item number 3, communication number 2024-277, John Sullivan, Government Buildings Manager, requesting Council of Commissioners concurrence to schedule a bid opening for June 26, 2024 for the Motherlode Fire Suppression System. We will hold this until June 26 for that bid opening. Now, Mr. Nordwick, we're ready for you with public comment on any item not on the agenda. Please come to the mic and briefly state your comments.
Hi, my name is Thor Nordwick, Gold Street property. I had some sheep in my property. The cops called and they said I couldn't have my sheep there. I think everyone should everyone should have goats mowing their yard instead of me mowing it with a gasoline. I don't see there's a problem. Why is there
We're not able to engage in conversation during public
Okay.
comment, but your comments have been duly
Okay,
noted.
yeah.
And I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you staying with us through this whole process and maybe learning a little bit about the process. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Any other public comments on any items not on the agenda? Seeing none, motion to adjourn. Oh, Commissioner Fisher has an announcement.
Just a reminder, Barb sent out a email today, leave your laptops here. IT wants to do something with them. So, I don't know if we want to put them in the drawer or leave them on top of the desk, but
Yeah, thank you for that.
they'll be here.
Yeah, leave your laptops. All in favor of adjournment? Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned.